Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. Gotta admit, this article over here, right next to my head, it's got me a little concerned, a little worried. I will talk about that concern right after I give a shout out to our sponsor, of course, in this video, the good people over at The Ridge. They make these awesome, nifty, metal-plated wallets that fit nicely in your front pocket. Replace your disgusting, old, bulky leather wallet today using that link down below, that promo code MELON, and get 10% off. All right, Spotify's newest pitch to labels and musicians, Now You Pay Us. Kind of a strong title, a bit stronger than what actually reads deeper into the article. It's not quite so much Spotify shaking down labels at this point, but you do have to consider that streaming is the new mode of consumption for music. And now that streaming services have acclimated listeners to listening to and getting a hold of music in this way, and technologically speaking, there's not really another replacement for this anywhere on the horizon. I mean, this is it. You're just kind of streaming music through the internet for free at your leisure, and whatever song, whatever album you want to hear at whatever time you want to hear it, it's there. Doesn't really get much more convenient than that. Can't imagine some other medium or mode of delivery that outpaces this or isn't just another variation of this. So having said that, that gives platforms like Spotify, platforms like Apple Music, any music streaming platform really, quite a bit of leverage as, hey, labels, this is how your music gets to your fans now. This is the best and most effective way and will always be when it comes to making money, getting attention, getting fans, getting that engagement. So what is Spotify saying and proposing here in this article? Basically, they are devising new methods to essentially entice artists and labels into paying them money for advertising of their music on the platform. Now, what advertising means at this point is not entirely clear, as Spotify hasn't fully rolled out all of the potential ideas that will come along with this change. They have mentioned one idea in this article called marquee. There's a great article on Rolling Stone going into more detail as to how this marquee advertising service works, stating that labels can now purchase a pop-up ad prompting users to listen to Taylor Swift's Lover, for example, on release day. According to confidential documents obtained by Rolling Stone, every time a Spotify user clicks on one of these advertisements, the label forks over 55 cents. The label hopes some curious clickers will then hit play on the advertised music. So it's not like clicking on it even starts the music. You have to click on the ad and then it brings you to the music, and helping artists bolster their stream counts. Given that Spotify's payout per click, per stream of a song is so low, like, labels are never going to make this money back. It says also over here, in Spotify's pitch deck, which was sent to a distribution company, the platform advises artists and labels to spend at least $5,000 on these campaigns. If an artist pays that amount at 55 cents a click, the campaign should bring in more than 9,000 potential listeners over a 7-day period, which, in terms of like larger overall streaming numbers, 9,000 listeners, 9,000 potential listeners, not even guaranteed listeners, is pretty measly. If you're a label that has, let's say, $500,000 to blow on the promotion of an artist or a record, there are most likely some way more cost-effective ways that you could do that. This is just kind of the start of this whole thing. I mean, this article pretty much says as much. This is really only the first step to a larger series of steps that Spotify is going to be devising, where they'll be finding ways to entice artists and labels into paying them money for better placement, better advertisement on the platform. And what I'm concerned with is that this could potentially lead to a scenario where we're essentially in the digital age, the streaming age of payola, which, if you guys know anything about payola or the history of that, it's that we have technically, they don't always work, but government regulations preventing artists and labels from paying radio stations to play their songs so many times. But radio is no longer the key market when it comes to breaking and exciting people over new music. Now it's the internet. And since the internet, especially platforms like Spotify, are largely unregulated, you're going to have people proposing pretty much the same idea, because there's nothing really stopping them from engaging in this behavior. And while I don't envision a future where Spotify is going to become a totally closed space where you can't access whatever type of music you want to access at whatever time you want to, I still worry about these business practices creating an even more unlevel playing field where independent artists struggle even harder to be heard or be known or get any sort of attention. Imagine a scenario where, rolling the clock back a little bit, you guys might remember that time when Drake came out with his record Scorpion, and how that record and songs on it were plastered all over every corner of Spotify, the playlist, the front page, everything. Now, of course, Spotify was incentivized to do that because it's a new record from a very popular artist. The more they shove that in front of people's faces, the more likely people are going to say, oh, Drake, I've heard Drake, or I like Drake, I want to stream this right away. But imagine a mediocre or an unknown or an artist that labels are essentially trying to break could pay for that type of treatment. Now, I suppose an indie artist could take advantage of the same system as well, but most likely they're going to be priced out of whatever the major labels are able to pay for this kind of exposure. And as long as there's no legal barriers preventing Spotify from doing so, business moves like this are going to trend toward that direction, and again, ultimately become sort of a concern for me. So those are my thoughts on this situation. Check out the article, which we will link you to down below, and let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Is this just on its face, and even below that, just an honest attempt to make the company a bit more profitable, something that is ultimately no harm, no foul, or is it something a bit more nefarious, something a bit more like payola in a sense, in a spirit, I suppose. Do you think this sort of thing is likely to ruin the platform even for you as potentially a Spotify user, as I'm sure many of you who watch these videos are? So thank you very much. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Spotify forever.